Today, we're talking with a very special student service leader. Students in these positions help programs in the Office of Community and Civic Engagement run effectively in direct and behind-the-scenes service. It's Campus to Community. Welcome back to Campus to Community. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Hannah Baggott Anderson, Lecturer of English and Literacy Commons Faculty Fellow. With me today to talk about her position as a student service leader is Meghan Canady, who I've had the pleasure of working with personally for the past year. Thanks for joining us today, Meghan.
Thanks for having me.
So to start off our conversation today, which is all about you and what you do, which I'm excited about, tell us what you do as a student service leader.
So in the Office for Community and Civic Engagement, I'm the student service leader for academic service learning. So basically I work directly with service learning courses, the instructors and their personal teacher assistants. So I plan trainings for the TAs, professional development opportunities, and go to service learning events when I can, depending on my schedule. And I also work with the Literacy Commons.
It's a lot of stuff, yeah?
Yeah. I stay busy.
Yeah, because you do that on top of a full course load.
Yeah.
As an education major.
Elementary
education. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I want to think about too then, how does this big position in CCE relate to your major?
So in some ways it does, some ways it doesn't, which I'm both equally grateful for because this gave me a different perspective on a lot. But definitely like a lot of the service learning are education oriented. A lot of my service learning classes personally involved me being in the schools, and I think it's also gave me a lot of communication and leadership skills. I've also been able to network with professionals in the school system, so that's really gave me a little foot in the door.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for it.
So you made those connections before you even get to your job, because you're a junior, right? So you've got some more time here, and we're happy to keep you. So I will ask now, there's so many questions I have for you, but what do you love most about this job that you have? Because it's not one that I'd even heard of as a faculty member here until we started working together in the Literacy Commons.
So yeah, I hadn't heard of it either until my sophomore year, but it's great. It's a great opportunity. What I love most is just working directly with other students and faculty members as well, making that relationship between the two, and being able to really see the impact of service on our community partners, especially our local schools and other, like Pembroke Housing Authority, Union Elementary, different community partners we work with, and also how it changes the students from the day they walk into their service learning classes versus how they come out with their reflection piece.
So you get to see it all, like from the beginning when I'm sure they're a little resistant to the end. Do you remember when you were ever resistant in a service learning class?
Yes.
Yes?
My freshman year, I took American Indian Studies introduction course, and our service learning was at Hawkeye Indian Culture Center. So we were working on a farm, and it was rainy. It was cold, and I don't like rainy and cold. And I really did not want to go. But after it was all said and done, I was like, yeah, I'm taking more service learning. Yes. So I took another service learning with Dr. Halliday, and then I got this job.
Yeah, it just kind of led up to it.
It was great.
That excites me to see the way that has happened for you. I even think we have some pictures to share, and if we can get those up, we can talk about some of them, because I know you and I really just got back from, here it is, a conference with Sandy Jacobs. Can you tell us a little bit about what happened at this conference?
Yeah, so Impact National Conference is basically a service-oriented conference. And Hannah and Sandy and I all had the pleasure of presenting on our Literacy Commons program, the third grade literacy program. So we presented on that Saturday to a small group, but it was a very intimate experience. It was great. We had a lot of good workshops we attended, and new ideas we got, I think, about how to further sustain our program, and it was just great overall.
Yeah, so there's an example of us working together there, and then here's an example of you working with other students at a school, yes?
Yeah, so this was at Peterson Elementary. At our MLK week of service, we had 2 readings that week. So we took this group of students and we read to 2nd grade students in that school and led a little short lesson on, you know, what's your dream? What could you do for your school, your community, your teachers, your friends? And it was just really great to see what they already knew about Martin Luther King Jr. And then we just went in and built upon that.
Yeah, to apply it in a big way, and it's something we do annually, right?
Yeah, so we have this through MLK week of service. I think this was our first time, but we also have a reading party through a service learning class where students come to us and we host the same type of thing with Miss Dina Johnson's class.
Great, and so that's a part of something you do often, and then here is sports empowerment, right?
Yeah, so that was my first big event working with CCE. It was a proud moment. I planned that event and it went really well. So that's one of my favorite events.
And I like seeing this picture because we did talk with Abigail and yes, who started that program, and you're continuing it there with them. And then if we look here, you get to be the poster child of this MVP situation here. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, so the MVP program, it was something we had going on with Food Line Feeds. So basically we were trying to get MVP numbers for those who had MVP cards through Food Line, and order to, you know, help end hunger.
Yeah,
so we were doing this around homecoming time through the Care Resource Center. I was trying to help them out getting MVP numbers, but they totally know more about it than I do. I just know a little bit of it, and I just happened to
be there and be ready, picture ready that day.
I try to help out when I can.
Yeah, so doing all types of service in your position, and then we've looked at kind of indirect planning, and now we're going to look at some examples of kind of that direct service.
Yeah, so this is one of our science outreaches through the Literacy Commons as well, our science buddies, where we go to local schools and work with students. So this was, we were building a tower with spaghetti, duct tape, and a marshmallow had to stay on top. It was difficult in some ways, but they did really well.
Yeah.
So we work with 4th grade students, 3 different classes during the day. It's great.
Yeah, so seeing that hands-on, and this final picture, which I love because it shows that you are, you know, out there in the heat doing work. What were you doing this day?
So we were doing 9/11 day of service in the fall semester. It was like our big day of service to start off the year, and we were doing some groundkeeping, some cleaning up at Pernellsville High School. So I was laying straw here.
Oh, all right.
It was great. It was very hot that day, but it was good. It was fun.
Yeah, I like that you could, I mean, I don't know how much of this you would put literally on your resume, but to be able to talk to potential employers later and say, as a student service leader, you do all of this planning, you do all of this kind of behind the scenes work, but also this direct service of laying straw, right?
Yeah, whatever helps.
Yeah, and I like your passion for it because working with you personally, I've never really seen you like say no to something or find something completely undoable. So I like seeing examples of it. Oh, so we have now seen, you know, a little bit of an overview of what you do, and it's so much. So I'd like to be able to specifically talk about how you serve our Robeson County community, you know, around the school, in these kind of different offices that you work with, all, you know, together under CCE, but different people, right? So when you do your work with Sandy, because I know you spend a lot of time with him, what does it look like? What kind of community work do you do through your work with him?
So with my work through Sandy, like it's more the service learning aspect of it all. So I do sometimes reach out to community partners, but that's still mostly on the TA to do that for the instructor. So a big community project I'm working on right now is a timeline project for the North Carolina Service Learning Board. So that's really like my service right now. Most of my in-school contacts through Literacy Commons, so but that ties together as well.
Yeah. So. Can you tell me, like, I haven't heard about this timeline that you're working on. Can you talk to us about what that is?
So there's this North Carolina Service Learning Board, and I'm just gathering all their events, interviewing people, and gathering all their past events, past members, all big projects they've done and putting it together, a timeline, Yeah, I've just been working on it for a little while now.
So that we can look at what's been done and hopefully help that influence what we will do.
And that's another,
Okay.
So that's another thing, networking wise, I'm getting to interview people who are on this board from all over the state. Wow. So it's great.
Big. It's big. So we've got that kind of bigger CCE, like in-office stuff, but then I know you work with me in the Literacy Commons when we're both there. And I feel like you're involved in every part of the programming that we do there. So you want to talk to us a little bit about that?
So with the Literacy Commons, with you, of course, I really make school visits, communicate with the lead teachers, the principals, make sure we're meeting the needs of our schools, because that's our #1 priority, is making sure we're getting them what they need from us and our tutors. At first, started off, I was over the tutors, and now I'm like over volunteer coordinators, and it's just gets bigger and bigger, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm glad. Great. So you like this kind of administrative role?
Yeah.
Because I know that it's an interesting difference, as you noted, between your major versus like what you're doing with your work, because our volunteer coordinators and our volunteers, are literally in the classroom working with the students one-on-one, but then you are kind of like where myself and Sandy Jacobs are, doing like the faculty staff admin part. But why do you think it's important for you to have this experience before you, I assume, or I think I know you're going into teaching directly. So how is this helping you be prepared for that?
It's really gave me a different perspective on things, and I think it's helped me decide what I may want my future to look more like. If it is, I want to be in the classroom, or do I want to be on a different side, administrative or higher ed even. It just gives me a look at different opportunities I could have in that. So I like both of them. So I get the in-class experience with my service learning, and then I get this overview kind of aspect in the Literacy Commons. So.
Yeah, and both can affect change in a major way, right?
Yeah.
What have you seen, or what kind of data? I know we collect data where we are. What have you seen change we know that for the service learning students, but also for the students in the Robeson County schools? What have you seen?
So the students that we personally work with, I see it through our Literacy Commons, through our science outreach, and through my service learning in my courses where I go for whatever class it is. I think it's beneficial for them to see people come in from UNCP. Is like when we walk into the room, their faces are like, oh my God. So I love it. I think it keeps them motivated as well, because they're getting that college student in their class, and it's like, I want to be like that. And also you see their growth, and I think that's the big part for me. I like seeing where they started and where they come from, whether it's you're there for a few weeks out of the semester, you're there one day and they learned something. Like yesterday our lesson was on density, and it's like by the time I walked in there, they were calling it salt and vinegar, and it was oil and salt. And then when I left, they knew that oil was more dense than water, and that's why oil and water separate. And it's just it warms your heart a little bit when you see how much they've grown. Yeah. So it's a great experience.
Yeah. And I like hearing that from you, and from any kind of student in your position too, because I think a lot of the time, even for me, like recognizing our age is strange, and to think about like feeling that kind of joy for these young kids, and we don't necessarily feel like full-grown people just yet, and you're still figuring out your career path, but you can still find that joy for those kids in this county, right?
It's great.
Yeah. Oh, I get so excited. I'll ask too, a lot of us are aware of the challenges in Robeson County for our school system, with funding, with standardized testing scores, and we have talked about that personally, but I'd love to know your thoughts.
Okay. On the schools in general?
Yeah, sure.
So as a product of Robeson County schools, now that's what I'm really passionate about. Growing up, it was always, I want to get out of Robeson County, I don't like it here, and now that I'm here, still furthering my education, it's like I've got a whole new respect on Robeson County, just because of the things I've experienced here versus what I would have gotten outside. I think it's some more personal experience here. Yeah. So I'm just really grateful for our school system as a whole. I know people like to look and say, well, their scores are low, their students must not be learning anything, but I think it's more of a demographic problem.
Yeah.
You know, we are like one of the poorest counties, so people need to look at that aspect before we're just saying, well, your students aren't where they should be. And I think that's where our educators need to, you know, we need to step in, like my peers and me alike, like this is a school that I would like to go to, and let's help these students grow, versus looking at the scores and saying, well, they're just low.
Yeah.
Where I could say, well, their scores are low, but where can I find my little niche and help them succeed.
Yeah,
further.
and promote change, right?
Yeah, promote change, yeah, exactly.
Because as educators, like, that should be the hope, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think about that too, not to just plug for all education majors, like, go into Robinson County directly, but what an opportunity to be doing service learning here, to volunteer in the schools, to work administratively, to know these needs before you even enter the workforce, and to know how you could potentially, like, be a huge help. I love thinking about that, because I do know, like, the challenge, and hearing even from just students in my classes that are from here locally about, you know, half of them wanting, like, almost desperately sounding to get out, but then the other half wanting so much to stay and to not leave. And what an amazing thing to do with your education, to go back into the system here and just create a better situation for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I've had good teachers in my education experience here who've made a difference in my life, and I feel like I could definitely be that for everybody else, for the future generations to come, in whatever way I decide to further my career. But I just feel like if people's done it for me, then I should be able to do it for others as well.
Yeah, so it's like you're giving back in a cyclical way. So now thinking about, you know, not just for education majors, maybe for everyone, what do you say to a student that's, you know, has some time to volunteer or needs to volunteer for a class, you know, even separate from service learning, like needs to get out there and do something? How do you convince them that volunteering in a school or through the Literacy Commons or wherever we have opportunities, science buddies or adult skills programming, what do you say to them to get them to do that?
I just really like to tell my personal experiences with service, you know, and I'm an advocate for service completely. I think everybody should try service at least once, and we have UNCP Serve, so that makes it even more easy to find a place to serve at. Like, it doesn't matter what you're interested in, whether it's students, whether it's cats, whether it's anything, like, you can find something on UNCP to serve at. And I just think it'll change everybody's life, and if you do it and it's not for you, then at least you say you tried. So I just try to make sure everyone finds their little area that they like, something that they can get involved with and that they would enjoy, and to keep them motivated to serve.
Yeah, the UNCP Serve is a really great resource that way. I know you're always updating stuff on there, right? From the CCE side or the administrative side. Again, we keep pointing to that. But what is kind of coming up down the line? What's the next big event through CCE that you're most excited about? So
our next big events are probably Special Olympics and Sports Empowerment. So I'm really excited about those, because Sports Empowerment was my big event last year, which Abigail is over that now. So I'm very excited about those events, and always excited about Literacy Commons. It's ongoing, so it's great. So yeah, I love Sports Empowerment because it brings these high school students in, and it's a more intimate level than Special Olympics, because Special Olympics is like all of our schools, but Sports Empowerment is like 3 local high schools, so it's a smaller group of students, so it's a more intimate experience with them and just playing sports with those students with disabilities throughout the day. So it's great.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that that's the difference in how many people are here. So again, Special Olympics, different from Sports Empowerment, different days, different events altogether.
Different,
okay. And what is, and do you do work with Special Olympics too, or is that?
No.
Okay.
Last year I didn't really work with Special Olympics much, more Sports Empowerment, and then this year Abigail has all of it. But I just know it's a bigger event, larger scale, and it's held on the football field, and Sports Empowerment, smaller scale, Olympic field with less volunteers.
Okay.
So.
How do people, is that all on UNCP Serve? Like, how do people get involved? Can individuals volunteer, or do you need to be in a group to?
Individuals can definitely volunteer. A lot of our volunteers do come from the special education department for their service learning, but individuals can volunteer. I know a lot of people love to volunteer at Special Olympics because it is like nationwide. So they volunteer where they're from, so they come here and want to volunteer ours too.
Oh, that's cool.
And anybody can volunteer for sports empowerment too. It's on UNCP Serve, and we have flyers around campus as well.
Awesome. Love that. Love that plug. So now, what are your plans then? You know, this is your junior year. You're going into your last year of college here. Gosh, so soon. It goes by so fast. What are your plans, you know, for the summer or for next year? What's that looking like for you?
So in the summer, I work at a summer camp in Lumberton, and I love it. This will be my 4th year, so I'm happy about it. The closer summer gets, I'm more excited.
Yeah.
But I love working with those kids. And next semester, just my final 15 hours of coursework before my internship, my final semester with CCE, so it's sad. But I'm excited for whatever comes, whatever.
Yeah.
Get different kinds of service. Maybe I'll try something.
Maybe, we'll see. Because I'll also think about, so you do your internship, which is like in a school. Yeah. What is that going to look like? What does it mean? I mean, I'm not sure about what that looks like. What does it mean to be an intern in a school?
So interns, you go a semester in a local, well, it doesn't have to be local, whatever schools we have in our system. We're there 7:30 to 3:30, 7:30 to 4, however long the teacher's there, we're there every day. They do come to campus some Fridays for seminars, but most of your time is spent in the classroom, you know, planning lessons, teaching lessons, and completing your TPA portfolio, which is a whole different story.
Yeah.
But 16 weeks in school, so it's exciting. So.
Yeah, because that's like a little bit of taste of what actually teaching will look like.
Yeah.
Are you hoping to be teaching in Robeson County, or is that your?
Yeah, so I hope to be teaching in Robeson County. I do have a grant currently that my payback agreement is to teach in a Native American school or area. So of course it would only be right if I taught here and gave back to my community. So in my, you know, system.
Yeah, absolutely. How then too, because you know, I think a lot of the time, especially when we're talking about Robeson County, often we, or I should say I do this, tend to kind of gloss over our Native American roots here just because it's so known, it's so ubiquitous, and I'm just like, don't need to talk about it like everybody knows. But what do you think those roots, like what kind of effect does that have like on the school system, on our interpretation of it?
I think it just depends on what area of Robeson County you're in, because our Native American population does fluctuate in some areas. But with my grant, since Robeson County as a whole has a heavy Native American population, I could go to any school in our county. So if I was in a school that wasn't heavily populated with Native Americans, I could still be culturally responsive to my Native American students, to my non-Native American students, and plug into them that aspect just like I would at a school maybe I was in Pembroke. And as a community, I feel like some of our traditions may be dying out, but I do feel like being culturally responsive is very helpful to build the next generations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love being able to think about that. Because what does that look like to be culturally responsive?
Just making sure that our students are learning on a level they can understand. So, of course, our students here will learn different than a student would in New York. And, you know, our standardized tests are nationwide, so we're all taking the same test. In one of my professional development meetings, we did discuss a scenario where if there was a problem at a subway, our students might not associate a subway with like a subway you would ride in DC or New York, but they're going to associate it with the food place. So you have to make sure that you're changing up your situations, your scenarios, your problems, and making it where they understand it. So if we're talking about food, I might say, hey, Bob had 5 pieces of cornbread from Fuller's yesterday. And they're going to understand that because they're going to say, yeah, I ate at Fuller's the other day, you know. So it's just making sure that they're responsive to what's going on, and also throwing in like different Native American facts and making sure they understand, especially like during the month of November for Native American Heritage Month.
I love that. And I love thinking about that because that's so important, and I don't think a lot of us realize like how much of an effect that has on making students like engaged and making them feel like the person teaching them cares about them, right? Even if it's just like cornbread from Fuller's. Oh gosh. So now, like, thinking about, like, with that in mind, what is your hope going in, like, as a teacher, like, kind of like the first thing that you want to think about, like, walking into your classroom, like, potentially?
My first thing walking into my classroom, I want to make sure that my students feel like they're in a safe and nurturing environment, because I know there's students who go through things at home, and school, it may be their only outlet.
Yeah.
So aside from teaching and making sure they know everything, first meeting their needs and understanding like this student might not learn today because they might be hungry or they might not be getting sleep. So just making sure that they feel safe and cared for. And I want to be the teacher that I had teachers who were there for me. I had a teacher in 9th grade, Miss Alford. She was probably like the best teacher, one of the best teachers I've had. And she made sure her students came first to her and that our needs were met. And I still talk to her today, and I want to be that for my students, to make sure they know that I care for them. I just don't want them to learn and go home. I want them to learn, feel safe, and know that I care for them on, you know, both levels.
Yeah. And I love, like, I'm inspired by that, like, fully. And even thinking about that and applying it to the way that we do service in the schools, I'm hoping that everyone can kind of take something from what you just said. And, you know, there's only so much we can do in like 1 to 2 hour stints. And we also want to leave, you know, the power with the teacher in the room. But coming at it with that attitude of that inclusiveness, that transformation, and that support, I think is so important. Oh, I love it, Meghan. Do you have any kind of final thoughts that you want to leave, you know, me with, our viewers with, about all of this work that you do and you work so hard at?
I just love it overall. I'm extremely thankful for Christy, Sandy, and Dalton for believing in me, because I was probably would never done this a year ago. I was shy, and now they brought me out of my little shell and pushed me into all this service, and it's just great. I love it, and I love the impact I make on the community, on campus, getting me involved, the networking that it's brought, and I just want everybody else to love service too.
Yeah, because you can see, and I love thinking about how you're saying you can see the impact, you know what's going on, and I also love thinking about how, like, you are just one person, right? You're just one person, but even just knowing you for this past year, how much of an effect you have on the whole county, right? So I think about, like, if everyone can be like Meghan Canady, I would be so happy. Sorry, not to embarrass you, but I really think about that. Like, if everyone could be like people like you, the kind of effect that we could have, like, on this county, on our education system, on our community, it would just be incredible. But I will stop praising you in public on television. So thank you, Meghan, for being with us today. So much. And thank you to our viewers. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, a little casual, a little fun. But be on the lookout for another episode of Campus to Community. See you next time.